Erev Tov, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Mandy Winston, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of UJIA. We're really happy to have you with us this evening for our event with Karen Cinnamon, who is the founder of Smashing the Glass and Your Jewish Life, and Imogen Krell, who's the former chair of Young UJIA. And welcome to all the women and even those people who like women from all of the communities across the UK. And this is one of the really fabulous things about being able to do events during lockdown, is that we can actually come together in some kind of way, no matter whether we're in Glasgow or whether we're in London. Now, UJ's mission is to connect UK Jewry with Israel, and that is vital for the continuity of our own community. And we've been doing this for 100 years. And we can't hold an event without understanding where we are at this particular moment in light of what is happening in the UK and in Israel at the time of COVID. And in Israel today, disadvantaged communities who were suffering before COVID are impacted that much more. And at UJ, we've been concerned about the gap that has been growing even more between those who have and those who do not. And so we're working to deliver food packages and games to children in lockdown to our partner community of Ethiopian Israelis in Kiryat Bialik. We've also been delivering computers to kids in Sfat that don't have access to the tools they need for ongoing education. This is our way as the UK Jewish community of expressing solidarity and support to each other during the pandemic. And here in the UK, we've moved all our educational and engagement work online. We did that in March, and we supported over 40 socially distanced and virtual new initiatives across the spectrum of the Jewish community, again from London to Glasgow, all with the goal of ensuring that our young people remain connected to their people and to Israel during this difficult time. And this is UJ. Together, we're extending a hand to those who need it most in Israel and securing a Jewish future. And I would like to thank all of you for your support over many years that has enabled us to do this. Now, this evening's conversation should be really thrilling, but I want to tell you all not to forget to stay until the end, because at the end of tonight, we'll be doing our prize giveaway, kindly donated by Fern and Primrose. So I'd like you all to join with me in welcoming Imogen Krell and Karen Cinnamon for tonight's conversation. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Imogen, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can I just ask before we start, if you have any questions whilst Karen and I are chatting, please do pop them in the Q&A function. That's just at the bottom of your screen. And then at the end, I'll endeavour to ask as many as I can. So without further ado, Karen, thank you so much for joining us. So I know that you're the founder of Smashing the Glass, which is the world's biggest Jewish wedding platform, and also Smashing Life, which is the world's first and only lifestyle membership for Jewish and Jewish women. But I'm not sure many of our guests will know much about you. So if you could just start off by telling us a bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Cinnamon. I'm thrilled to be here this evening. It's a real honour. Israel has a very special place in my heart, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and just absolutely love being part of these events. So thank you for inviting me. So I'm Karen. I started Smashing the Glass about 8 years ago now, when I was engaged, well, just after I got married. And the idea came from feeling excluded from the sort of mainstream wedding industry as a modern Jewish woman planning a wedding in London. You know, I wanted a beautiful wedding, but I also wanted to incorporate Jewish traditions. And there was nothing that spoke to me as a modern Jewish woman. So I was soon on maternity leave after I got married, and I thought, I need something to keep my brain ticking on maternity leave. How about I start something that I wanted to start the blog on a platform that I wish I'd had access to when I was planning my wedding. That was the sort of idea. And I just started something really small, and it's grown beyond my wildest dreams. And now we have Your Jewish Life, as you say. And yeah, there's lots going on 8 years later.
Amazing. And what do you hope to achieve from this platform as it continues to grow?
So my mission has always been to encourage individuality. Sometimes certainly with weddings and, you know, the wider Jewish life, there's a lot of shoulds and musts, and we lose sight of what we want. And especially with weddings, if you don't have any kind of visual cues or other weddings to look at, you don't really know what's possible, so you potentially just create something like someone else's wedding. And what I wanted to do was show people what's possible with Smashing the Glass. And so we show hundreds of real Jewish weddings and Jewish weddings, like lots of interfaith weddings and everything you can imagine. We've got it on Smashing the Glass, and advice and guidance and all that kind of thing. And just to show people what's possible so they can have their Jewish wedding their way. And that's now led to the lifestyle brand, Your Jewish Life, which is all about your Jewish life your way. So it's about encouraging individuality and empowerment in making the right choices for you as you lean into your Jewish identity.
And a lot of that sort of stems from your social media platform, am I right?
Well, I built the audience and the sort of platform on Instagram and social media, which has, definitely helped the growth and the impact.
And so just thinking about social media, because I guess it's been sort of thrust into debate at the moment with, what are the benefits versus the cons of it. You can see lots of trolling, incitement of hatred, fake news. So I'm wondering, because you've got 23,000 followers on Instagram, do you think you could have achieved as much as you have done if social media hadn't existed?
It would have been far more difficult to get my message across and to reach so many people, because Instagram facilitates community and connection. And in fact, when I started Smashing the Glass 8 years ago, it wasn't such a thing. Twitter was more the thing. And as I say, I was on maternity leave. I wasn't kind of going out and about every night. I was, so I used Twitter to kind of make industry connections. And then as Instagram got bigger and bigger, I realized that was the platform where all the couples are hanging out. And if I want to reach more couples, it's great to have a website and everything that goes with it, but Instagram's great, and also do a lot of video as well, which is just getting bigger and bigger now with TikTok and Instagram Reels. So I'm a creative. That's what I did, design and branding before I started Smashing the Glass. So fortunately, I love creating really exciting content, and that kind of helps with reach, because that's how people consume things now, 15-second videos and also very long blog posts on Smashing the Glass and everything in between.
And what have you found most effective in terms of reaching different people?
I would say the smashingtheglass.com, the website. There's so little content on the internet that dives deep in Jewish weddings, and particularly interfaith Jewish weddings. That was a really big one for me when I started Smashing the Glass, to be able to have a platform and a place for people having an interfaith wedding to come and see all the possibilities and all the other people that have had interfaith weddings and how wonderful they are. And so people tend to just kind of, Google something and they end up on Smashing the Glass. And then Instagram is a way of getting closer to them. So, you can't get close to people through a website, but you can on Instagram. And then we also have a membership, a brides club, where we get much, much closer to brides inside the club. So all the different levels of reach. But I'd say the biggest one is definitely, you need to have a platform that's not dependent on social media, but social media sort of deepens the relationship.
Right, and it feeds into, so you take traffic from Instagram onto your website. Okay,
exactly that.
And you mentioned just before about your brides club. So can you tell us a bit about that? What does that entail?
Sure. So Smashing the Glass reaches literally between 50 and 100,000 people every month all over the world, which is fantastic. But I realized after a few years of running Smashing the Glass that I want to be able to help people in a more individual way. And I started a consultancy, sort of not wedding planning, but just a sort of 2-hour consultancy where I could help brides that wanted to go a bit deeper. And I quickly got booked up with that, and I thought, how can I help more brides on a bigger basis, but not kind of thousands, and came up with this idea of a paid membership for brides. And so that was launched in so first incarnation was in February 2018, and then I relaunched it as it is today in November 2018, so about 2 years ago. And it is all about support, community, discounts, advice, guidance. And we have lots of, get-togethers as well, meetups. We have one-to-ones. I give one-to-ones on it. It's everything an interfaith or Jewish bride would want as she's planning her day, because it can be very, even before all the issues with COVID, obviously, which are unprecedented, that word of 2020, it's still very overwhelming and stressful to plan a wedding with all the opinions, all the options, all the things screaming and shouting at you, and we just drill down to what's important, and it's all around a sort of community of fellow brides to be around the world. It's lovely, and there's some lifelong friendships that are made in there. It's the best thing I've ever done is the Brides Club.
Sounds amazing. And do you have followers from all over the world then?
Yes, we do. That's the brilliant thing with online, is you can reach, you know, I have emails from people in Brazil and India, and obviously as far flung as Australia, New Zealand, and right here at home in London. And obviously America is our biggest, you know, audience, with there being so many Jews in America. So it's wonderful. Yeah, and they all connect and create friendships globally. So yeah, that's a big part of it, the community aspect.
And I guess that helps with people planning sort of destination weddings, that, you know, if I live in the UK but I'm planning my wedding in America or whatever,
yeah,
and you've got venues.
Yeah, I mean, look, we get in a lot of professionals as well. So I, you know, very well connected in the industry. So this month they wanted an expert to come in and talk about transitioning back to bigger weddings, which we'll be doing again in 2021. And they wanted an expert to help with the future of weddings. So I've got someone in, and it's going to do a masterclass on there. So we try and use you know, experts, but there's nothing like, as you say, the sort of brides on the ground going through the same thing. We also have newlyweds that stay on after they've got married to help the brides to be with their newlywed expertise. So it's just, it's really lovely in there. And then we have something for life after the wedding as well. So we're covering all bases.
There's sort of multiple generations that you've got. As soon as you're engaged, you're looked after.
Yeah, I wouldn't say multiple generations, but I'd say multiple sort of stages of life. So we're very much a millennial Jewish, you know, we are for the Jewish millennials, which is why, as you say, Instagram is such a big one for us now, TikTok as well. But it is very much about, okay, are you having children, or are you choosing not to have children? Or we've got our lifestyle community now, which is for if you're single or married or anything in between. That's a great place for you too. So yeah, we've widened now. Smashing the Glass is established, we've sort of widened into lifestyle as well. So something for everyone, hopefully.
Yeah, and so you've mentioned that it's sort of this evolution that you go through, and is that really what the thought process was when you sort of evolved from Smashing the Glass into your life?
Yes. So what happened is literally within a year of starting Smashing the Glass, and brides getting very involved in what we offer, and then obviously getting married, and they're like, why don't you start something for Jewish life as well? I was like, no, I just want to really nail this and get this really perfect, and then maybe down the line. But I was always asked all the time, please do something for lifestyle. I was like, no. I want to be really good at doing this one thing. And then I felt like a year or two ago, okay, now we can do it. You know, we have a big platform that works and helps, and you know, that's ever evolving, but let's do something for lifestyle as well. And so we have the Your Jewish Life Instagram account, which, if anyone isn't following yet, is the most fun place to be on Instagram, guaranteed. But we also delve on deeper subjects, and it's just a great place to be. So we have our Instagram account, and then we have to sort of, in the same way that Brides Club helps brides, we have our Smashing Life membership community, which is a community membership platform for Jewish and Jewish women, where they connect and support one another. And we also have masterclasses and resources and meetups and discounts and all kinds of other good stuff.
So it's the place to get involved then, even if you are.
Yeah, no, it's really buzzing. I mean, obviously right now it's a place where you can actually make new friends as an adult when you can't go to the pub or go to a party. And so it's particularly needed right now, I would say. But I think always, I mean, I can say for myself, when I was in my early 30s and, you know, full into adult life, but it was hard to make new Jewish friends as such. And it's a place to make beautiful new adult friendships, feel supported, and also move further in life in the direction that's right for you.
And I think just deeper on that point about 2020 being such an incredibly challenging year for everyone, and especially the events industry. How has COVID and all the multiple lockdowns affected your business, and then I guess all the brides all over the world?
Yeah, so we're all about, supporting, whether it's brides, women in general, support. And there has never been, obviously, a year where support was needed so much. So we just went in full on support mode for brides. Obviously, what do we do? No one's got a crystal ball. No one can say that you can get married and have the wedding you want in X date. So it's, and obviously, as you said, the restrictions and rules are constantly changing. So in terms of the brides, it couldn't be tougher, time to get married. So we are, particularly in the Brides Club, knee deep in supporting however we can in a myriad of ways. But then also beyond the Brides Club, we did things like we did a virtual bridal retreat where we did a 3-day weekend of everything from kind of face masks to yoga and dance it out. And what did we do? We did DIY crafting and all kinds of brilliant things just to lift the spirits, because that's the other thing as well. Like, it's not just about planning the wedding, it's also about lifting people up. So we have, Zoom quizzes and all kinds of stuff. And again, it all comes down to that sense of community and being part of something. And then as far as the business goes, like I say, it's just been about pivoting and slightly changing and keeping up with stuff. I mean, the world changes and the world has changed, and it's not about waiting for it to go back. It's about keeping up with what's happening and providing the solutions that people need right now.
Yeah, and I think because I actually went to a Corona wedding back in September, and there was something really intimate about it. There was only 30 guests there, and everyone who was there was really close to the bride and the groom. And in a way, it was more special than, say, having a 300-person wedding. What do you think has been the most creative wedding you've heard about through this whole Corona period?
So it was actually a wedding that we published. It was our first wedding of January 2021 that we published, because we were just completely taken by it. And it was a wedding where it was planned, a 200-person wedding at a beautiful venue called Micklefield Hall, which is outside of London. It's a barn venue. And at the last minute, they could only have 15 people, and they got really creative. They turned it into a drive-in cinema wedding, and they got married in the barn. That they had the chuppah with the 15 close friends and family, and then they had this big screen set up in the grounds, and people drove in their cars, watched the ceremony. They were handed all sort of COVID safe, but they were handed all kinds of a goodie bag and tea, afternoon tea, and there was like Zoom wedding bingo, and they just totally knocked it out of the park. It was incredible, such creativity at very short notice, and definitely one of the most memorable weddings we've ever published in 8 years of publishing all kinds of weddings.
Yeah, I can imagine if you want your wedding to be different, that is definitely
But it takes some imagination, but they pulled it off. And yeah, it's on Smashing the Glass, probably 2 or 3 wedding posts down if anybody wants to see, but really, really inspiring. But every single wedding that we've seen, that we've published, that's been impacted by Corona is really, warms the heart, because like you say, it's about the focus is suddenly on the important things, much more on the important things. So people have more budget per head, so they maybe would do things that they wouldn't have otherwise had the money for, or they can get really personal, like write a personal handwritten letter to every guest and how much they mean to them, all kinds of things. And bar none, every couple says they wouldn't have changed a thing. It was the most incredible day. So lots of hope for anyone if they're currently planning.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder, you're saying that the industry is going to change, and we all talk about this new normal after Corona. How do you think the wedding industry is going to adapt and change? Do you think people will have smaller weddings by choice as well?
Yeah, I think there'll always be the people that want the big wedding, and and that's what they want, and there's a place for it. But I do think there will be a focus on actually maybe spending the same amount but smaller weddings, and you can actually again really create that individuality that I talked about at the beginning, where it's your wedding your way. And maybe you do want a drive-in wedding with an afternoon tea after all, even beyond Corona. So I just think it's going to almost set people free to really do it their way, whether it's small, medium, large, whatever feels right.
Sounds good. And just thinking of in normal times, hopefully, if we can remember what they are like, what type of events do you normally host that sort of bring the community together? I know that you mentioned the Zoom yoga and DIY crafts and things.
So every week inside Brides Club, we have one of our wonderful members. She's a trained yoga teacher, Orly, and she does weekly yoga for brides. So we have all kinds of, and we have a crafting Zoom and all kinds of stuff at the moment. But before COVID, we also did a lot of regular in-person get-togethers, and we did things like challah bakes. And we have members all over the world. So certainly in the London area, everyone came to my house and we made challah, and it was wonderful. But you know, in New York they had a challah bake, they had a hum and tush and bake. In Chicago they did brunches. In Toronto they did also challah bakes are very popular because most of us don't really know how to bake a really good challah, but normally one person in that area knows how to do challah. So we all want to get together and make challah, and it's just such a beautiful way to lean into our identities. Yeah, all kinds of things. It's just about getting together. We did, again in New York, they're the most creative lot of all of us. They did cocktail making classes to anything that facilitates connection and friendship. We're behind. I don't care what it is. Could be a meditation class, but getting people together and connecting.
And there's a strong focus on identity, and you just mentioned it now. So I wonder, growing up, what was your Jewish life like?
Me? So I grew up in London with in a Jewish family, but two very different influences, because my mum is Israeli and my father is a sort of English style Englishman. And so I had the sort of Israeli influence, the kind of crazy go for everything, and then the sort of, you know, English sensibilities and all that kind of thing. So it's lovely having the two influences growing up. And yeah, we led a sort of modern secular Jewish lifestyle, but what impacted me the most in my childhood was every summer in Israel. With my Israeli family, we have the most incredible family in Israel, big family. My mum's one of 5 and I have lots of cousins, and we spent every summer there, and it is the most precious memories from my childhood, and still I'm very connected to Israel. And I think the Israeli identity is just such a big part of me, feeling Israeli as much as Jewish.
So it must be really special, I guess, planning weddings in Israel then.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't obviously plan anything, but I get to see loads of them. And yeah, I just think they have the best ruach, the best atmosphere. You know, when you get married outdoors under the stars or under the sun, it's kind of 50% guaranteed to be the most incredible wedding ever anyway. So you've got that. And then just, you know, there's no time curfew. Everybody's having the best time. If normally it's a destination wedding, so people are in that holiday vibe anyway. And the food is always amazing, and the dancing goes on till the 5 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I love Israeli weddings.
And they're usually several days long as well.
Yes, absolutely. And all the, you know, the brunches and the Friday night dinners, and the best thing about destination weddings is people are on holiday, so they are just ready for a good time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And before you just mentioned, sorry, my computer's playing up a little bit. So before, earlier you mentioned that you did sort of interfaith weddings, which is, I think, quite an interesting dynamic, because there probably are sort of left out of the wedding planning. They sort of don't really fit here and don't really fit there. So what is the best feedback that you've had from actually doing an interfaith wedding? And do you have any advice for anyone on here who might be having an interfaith wedding?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I don't plan weddings, but I reach a lot of brides and couples of all types of, you know, Jewish identity, whether they're not Jewish and marrying Jewish, or the other way around. And sometimes, you know, it's Jewish Muslim or Jewish anything, and it can be, you know, very tense for sometimes some of the families around. Sometimes it's not. But one thing that I knew when I was planning Smashing the Glass was I married a Jewish man and had an Orthodox Jewish wedding, but plenty of my friends didn't. They married non-Jewish or what's the way around. And there was nowhere for them to sort of see a blueprint of what a ceremony for them could look like. So I knew when I was starting Smashing the Glass, that was important to me, to have a whole area of this website, the platform, dedicated to interfaith. We call them Jew-ish, Jew-ish. And certainly in my Brides Club, again, we go much deeper with that. I suppose the greatest feedback is when brides will tell me that they gives them peace of mind and confidence and assurance that it's the acceptance of having an interfaith wedding as well that I think means a lot to me when they communicate that. And and also things like, some of them don't realize that you can marry a non-Jewish person and have a beautiful Jewish ceremony with all the traditions. You can even get married by a rabbi, even though your partner isn't Jewish. I know rabbis that are able to marry when one partner isn't Jewish, under a chuppah and with all the traditions. And that is, lights them up as well, just that they know what's possible. So obviously, if it's someone that says, I wouldn't have been able to pull off an interfaith wedding without your help, or, it's given me peace of mind, or the acceptance, that means the most.
Yeah, I bet that's very special. So thank you very much there. All the questions that I've got, but there are just a couple of questions in the chat. So there is one here that says, what would you say to your younger self growing up as a Jewish girl?
I would say, gosh, that's a big question. I had a happy childhood, and like I say, I had the Israel in my heart, and I didn't have anxieties or worries about anything. I had such a strong Jewish household with my Israeli mother at the heart of it, and Jewish traditions. I suppose not connected to a Jewish identity, but just that everything really does work out. And I probably need to tell that advice to myself right now as an adult as well. One never stops worrying if you're Jewish.
All the time. Yeah. Another one we have got is, what has been your weirdest ask for a wedding?
Weirdest ask for a wedding? Oh gosh, like I say, I don't plan weddings, so it's something people get confused about all the time. They assume I'm a wedding planner, and I always have to make it clear I'm not a wedding planner. I have a wedding platform that reaches lots of people, and I'm able to help through the platform and the club and social media. But so I don't find things weird when it comes to weddings, because the kind of weirder it is, the happier I am that they have the confidence to do it their way, no matter what that someone else thinks it's weird. It's your wedding, you're only going to get married once, have the weirdest wedding ever. I'm delighted. There's no normal way to have a wedding. If that doesn't feel right for you, I don't want that. I want you to have the weird, wacky wedding. In terms of like the weirdest, wackiest wedding we've ever featured, I have to get back to that. We've literally featured thousands and thousands. They're all on smashingtheglass.com, so you can get lost in them, and you tell me which one is the weirdest.
And then the next one is, do you think Dubai could potentially be the new hotspot for future destination weddings?
I think it's still very, very new. And obviously with weddings being launched there right in the middle of COVID, we haven't had enough kind of time to really see it take off. Look, I know there's plenty of Jewish families that love holidaying there, and Jewish couples that love holidaying there. So I can see it taking off. We need to give it some time and see, who exactly is getting married there, what they love about it. I think need to see a little bit of time, take a bit of time, but I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a popular destination in its own right.
And have you been invited to any of the weddings that you featured?
So I have been invited sometimes by, Brides Club members, but very rarely. It doesn't happen much, as people are surprised to hear, but it's really not a surprise to me. But I haven't attended, no, I haven't actually attended.
And another question, we've got loads of them coming through, is what is the best way to incorporate Jewish traditions into a wedding?
So we have a guide, if you go to smashtheglass.com/traditions, that lists the different Jewish traditions, because sometimes you need step-by-step guides to sort of understand. And I suggest you look at those traditions and you pick and choose the ones that feel right for you. Maybe you want to make them a little more egalitarian. Also, like as an example, it's tradition for the in heterosexual weddings for the bride to circle the groom 7 times. But what we're seeing a lot of, and in this guide it shows you lots of ways to make them your own or make them yours, we're seeing a lot of more egalitarian versions. So say a figure of 8, sorry, say the bride circles 3 times, the groom then 3 times, and then the final is a figure of 8 going around one another. So that's just an example. We see both couples smashing the glass, etc. So if those traditions speak to you as they are, do them. If they all speak to you, do them. But it's really important to sit down with your partner and talk through the traditions and see how you'd like to incorporate them. So it's like anything, like read the basics and then make them work for you.
And well, this one's an interesting one. How involved are the grooms in the Smashing the Glass community?
So we know that most of our audience are brides, and it's really important when you're running a platform to create everything you do for your ideal client, not try to create content for the bride and her mother and the grandfather and the this and the groom and the that. So everything we do is tailored for brides, because we know that's who we're speaking to. And like, you know, we'll talk about the pressure of unwanted opinions and things like that, because that's what they're going through and that's what they need help with. But I get asked, not on a weekly basis, but on a monthly basis, please, can you do something like this for my fiance? He would like to be, you know, part of a club, or he's interested. And the truth is, I've never ever got even close to launching something for grooms, because I don't actually think they would devour it, you know, hours and hours of content like the brides do. So, you know, from a business perspective, from what we've seen, it wouldn't be worth our while. Having said that, grooms get really involved in the planning. It's certainly not, you know, a trend or anything, like it's just the way things are now. So I'm not going to start creating anything for grooms, but never say never, but I don't think so. But we're definitely seeing grooms getting very involved along the way.
And just mention of the future, this sort of fits with that one. What do you want to do next, and where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
10 years' time, my goodness. Who can see where we're going to be in 1 year's time after the event? But I'll answer the first part of the question, what's next? So on our radar is really the development and growth of Your Jewish Life and Smashing Life. Obviously, it took, you know, 6-7 years to really get Smashing the Glass exactly, you know, as it should be. And we're just at the beginning of the Your Jewish Life, Smashing Life journey. And it being for the whole of, you know, Jewish life, there's a lot more to cover and a lot more to do. So we are very focused on building the Your Jewish Life brand and making the Smashing Life membership the most incredible place to be. So lots of work to do there. We've got all kinds of exciting new features coming this year to the Smashing Life membership. So that's a big focus. And honestly, who can see beyond? I mean, if we can just, you know, stay happy and healthy this year, and then let's do another one of these in a year's time, and I'll do one for the next year. 10 years time, I honestly can't think that far. just to be happy around my family and fulfilled from
And out of lockdown.
Out of lockdown, you said it.
So we've just got time for one more question. I'm so sorry for everyone else who I haven't got to. What advice would you give your daughters about getting married?
So yeah, I haven't mentioned my daughters. I have 2 gorgeous girls who are aged 5 and 7. And I would say, don't hurry into it. I would say, yeah, it's all about finding that right person that you want to spend your life with. And the actual wedding, believe it or not, I haven't thought about it. I think make it your own. That's what I would say to everybody. But it's all about finding that right person. That's the most important decision, the right person for you.
Yeah, think that's very wise words. So unfortunately, that's all the time we've got for questions. Thank you so much, Karen. That was a really interesting and insightful discussion. It's now time before we leave just to do the live prize draw kindly donated by Fern and Primrose. So if Karen, you want to spin the wheel, which hopefully should come up. There we go.
So the winner is Esther L. Well done, Esther.
Well done, Esther. UJIA will get in touch with you tomorrow to discuss sending that out to you. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you once again to you, Karen. That was really great. And I've had a really wonderful evening, and I hope everyone who's tuned in this evening has also done. So thank you for tuning in. Just one final word from Mandy before you go.
Thank you so much to Imogen and to Karen for taking the time to be with us this evening. That has almost made me want to get married for a second time. That's my little joke. And it's been really fascinating. And I want to thank everybody who has been at home either watching and supporting UJIA, particularly during this time. We look forward to welcoming you to our future women's series, whether it be online or hopefully in the not too distant future in person. So I'm going to wish everybody a good evening, a good night, stay healthy, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.